What happens when a movie crashes so hard audiences walk away, but time refuses to forget it? The 1960s were packed with bold ideas, risky storytelling, and films that completely missed their moment. Some were mocked, some were ignored, some vanished overnight. But here's the twist. Years later, these same failures found loyal fans, midnight screenings, and cult devotion. These aren't just flops, they're delayed explosions, and one of them still feels uncomfortably modern. Number 15, They Live by Night, 1968. This film never really got a fair shot. Released at the tail end of the decade, They Live by Night arrived quietly, with little promotion and confused distribution. Studios didn't know how to sell it, audiences didn't know what to expect, and box office numbers reflected that uncertainty fast. The story follows two young people on the run, not as glamorous outlaws, but as scared, hopeful souls trying to build something fragile in a world that keeps closing in. Director Nicholas Ray stripped away spectacle and focused on emotion. Soft lighting, long looks, awkward silences. It was tender when audiences expected excitement. At the time, critics found it slow, too gentle, too sad. Viewers walked away. The film disappeared almost immediately, but something strange happened later. Film lovers started finding it on late-night television and revival screenings. What once felt quiet began to feel honest. The performances aged beautifully. The mood lingered. Suddenly, this wasn't a failure. It was a mood piece ahead of its time. Today, it's praised for its intimacy and emotional realism, a film that whispers instead of shouts. It failed because it refused to perform, and that refusal is exactly why it endured. Number 14, The Producers, 1967. It's hard to imagine now, but this comedy was not an instant hit. When it first arrived, audiences didn't know what to make of it. The humor was sharp. The pacing was strange. The jokes were risky for the era. Many viewers simply didn't connect. Mel Brooks was a new voice then, loud, unapologetic, completely uninterested in playing it safe. The film leaned into absurdity with confidence, refusing to explain itself or soften the edges. That confidence confused people. The box office response was weak. Studios were disappointed. On paper, it looked like another clever idea that didn't translate into ticket sales. But time changed everything. As comedy evolved, audiences caught up. Viewers began to appreciate how fearless the humor really was. Lines became quotable. Scenes became legendary. What once felt chaotic suddenly felt precise. The film found a second life through rewatches, home media, and word of mouth. Fans didn't just like it. They memorized it. Today, The Producers is considered a comedy landmark. Its initial failure now feels almost ironic. It didn't fail because it was wrong. It failed because it was early. Number 13, Blowup, 1966. This film baffled audiences from the very first frame. Blowup wasn't interested in clear answers. It played with perception, silence, and ambiguity. For mainstream viewers in the mid-60s, that was a problem. The story follows a fashion photographer who may or may not have captured something disturbing on film. The movie refuses to confirm anything. Scenes stretch, dialogue fades, meaning slips through your fingers. At the box office, confusion turned into rejection. Many viewers left unsure of what they had just seen. Critics were divided. Some admired it. Others dismissed it as empty and frustrating. But art films have a strange afterlife. As years passed, Blowup became a favorite among film students and cinephiles. Its questions felt deeper. Its uncertainty felt intentional. The camera became the subject. Reality itself became the mystery. What once seemed unclear began to feel bold. The film didn't fail because it lacked substance. It failed because it demanded patience. Now it's studied, debated, and endlessly referenced. Blowup didn't want approval. It wanted attention, and it got it, just late. Number 12, The Trial, 1962. Orson Welles aimed high, very high. The Trial was ambitious, stylized, and intentionally unsettling. Based on a famous novel, The film trapped its lead character inside a maze of rules, rooms, and endless confusion. Audiences were not ready. The sets felt oppressive, the tone was cold, the story refused comfort. Viewers expected something traditional. What they got was anxiety on film. Financially, the movie struggled. It didn't connect with mainstream crowds. Studios saw it as another example of Wells going too far again. But time has been generous. Later, audiences began to appreciate the visual design, the towering hallways, the endless bureaucracy, the way the camera made people feel small and powerless. What once felt exhausting now feels prophetic. The film became a cult favorite among viewers who enjoy slow dread and surreal tension. Today, The Trial is admired for its bold vision and atmosphere. It didn't fail because it lacked clarity. It failed because clarity was never the point. Number 11. Targets, 1968. Targets arrived at exactly the wrong moment. Audiences expected a standard thriller. What they got was something quieter and far more unsettling. The film blended old Hollywood nostalgia with modern fear, and that mix confused viewers. The story follows two paths that slowly move toward each other, one rooted in classic cinema, the other rooted in modern alienation. The tension builds without spectacle, no big release energy, no easy thrills. As a result, the box office response was muted. The film slipped through theaters without making noise. But critics and later viewers saw what audiences missed. This wasn't just a suspense film. It was a commentary on changing times, on fading eras, on fear without clear answers. As years passed, Targets gained a reputation as one of the most thoughtful films of its kind. Directors praised it, writers referenced it, fans recommended it quietly. It didn't shout for attention. It waited. And when people finally listened, they realized it had been saying something important all along. Number 10. The Swimmer, 1968. This movie confused people in the worst possible way. Audiences walked in expecting a straightforward drama starring a major Hollywood name. What they got instead felt strange, symbolic, and emotionally slippery. The story follows a man who decides to swim home using only the pools in his neighborhood. It sounds simple, almost playful, but with each pool, something shifts. Conversations turn awkward, smiles feel forced. The bright summer setting slowly cracks. At the box office, patience ran out quickly. Viewers didn't know how to process what they were watching. Some thought it was boring. Others thought it made no sense. Ticket sales sank, but time did what theaters could not. Later viewers saw the deeper layer. This was not about swimming. It was about denial, about status, about pretending everything is fine while reality quietly collapses. Burt Lancaster's performance aged beautifully. What once seemed stiff now feels haunting. Each scene adds weight instead of relief. Today, The Swimmer is seen as one of the boldest character studies of the decade. It didn't fail because it lacked story. It failed because it hid the truth too well. Number 9. Charly, 1968. This film arrived with prestige written all over it. A serious story, strong performances, award attention. Everything suggested success, yet audiences stayed away. The story centers on a man whose intelligence changes dramatically, forcing him to experience the world in a new way. The film asks uncomfortable questions about growth, identity, and emotional cost. It doesn't rush answers. It sits with discomfort. At the time, that patience hurt it. Viewers found it heavy, not entertaining enough, too serious for casual moviegoing. The box office reflected that resistance. Yet critics kept talking, and over time, viewers returned. What once felt slow became thoughtful. What once felt cold became honest. The lead performance gained respect as viewers noticed the careful shifts and emotional control. Charly found its audience years later through repeat viewings and late-night discovery. People didn't just watch it, they discussed it. Today, it stands as a quiet cult favorite. Not flashy, not loud, just brave enough to stay serious when the market wanted comfort. Number 8. The Loved One, 1965. This film was simply too sharp for its time. A dark comedy that aimed straight at American customs and comfort, The Loved One made audiences uneasy by laughing at things they preferred not to question. The humor was dry, the tone was strange, the satire cut deep. Viewers didn't know whether to laugh or recoil. Many chose neither and stayed away. At the box office, the reaction was quick and cold. The film faded almost immediately, but satire ages differently. As years passed, people began to appreciate how fearless the writing was. The jokes landed harder, the message felt clearer, the discomfort became the point. The performances gained new appreciation. The direction felt precise instead of awkward. What once felt cruel now felt observant. The Loved One slowly earned cult status among viewers who enjoy humor with teeth. It didn't fail because it missed the joke. It failed because the joke landed before people were ready to hear it. Number 7. Point Blank, 1967. This film confused audiences the moment it opened its mouth and refused to explain itself. Viewers walked in expecting a crime thriller. What they got felt fragmented, cold, and strangely aggressive. Scenes didn't follow traditional cause and effect. Time folded back on itself. Characters appeared and disappeared without emotional signposts. The main character barely reacted to anything. At the box office, the reaction was swift. Confusion turned into rejection. Many viewers walked out unsure of what they had just watched. Critics were divided. Some praised its style. Others dismissed it as empty and pretentious. Financially, it failed. Studios quietly moved on. But the film refused to disappear. Years later, a new generation found it through late-night television and revival screenings. Without expectations, the film began to make sense on its own terms. A film that broke narrative rules before audiences knew they were allowed to break. It didn't fail because it was unclear. It failed because it arrived before viewers were ready to experience a story that refused to hold their hand. It wasn't trying to entertain. It was trying to change the language of film, and eventually it did. Number 6. The Last Man on Earth, 1964. This film struggled from the start. Limited budget, modest promotion, audiences unsure what they were watching. The box office response was weak, yet the idea was powerful. A lone survivor moving through empty streets, routine replacing hope, silence becoming a companion. At the time, viewers found it bleak, too quiet, too repetitive. Many dismissed it as cheap. But later, audiences saw something else: atmosphere, isolation, mood. The film captured loneliness in a way few movies dared to attempt. Vincent Price delivered a restrained performance that gained appreciation over time. The quiet moments became the point. The emptiness became the message. Today, this film is recognized as a foundation for an entire genre. It didn't succeed financially, but its influence traveled further than its ticket sales ever did. Number 5. Faster, Pussycat, Kill, Kill, 1965. This movie didn't just fail, it was flat out rejected. When it first appeared, audiences didn't know what to do with it. The style was aggressive. The characters were loud, physical, and completely uninterested in being likable. The tone felt confrontational, even playful in its defiance. Ticket sales were weak, reviews were dismissive, many theaters quietly moved on. But underground audiences noticed something different. The movie didn't apologize. It leaned into attitude, speed, and bold personality. Over time, viewers began to celebrate what once felt excessive. The dialogue became quotable. The pacing felt electric. The confidence felt refreshing. What once scared mainstream viewers became a badge of honor for cult fans. Today, it's embraced as a landmark of style and energy. It didn't fail because it lacked identity. It failed because it had too much of it. Number 4. Seconds, 1966. This film unsettled audiences from the very beginning. It didn't ease viewers into its idea or soften the impact. Instead, it raised an unsettling question almost immediately. What would happen if someone could erase their past and begin again, only to discover that starting over comes with a cost? Many people walked in expecting energy and momentum. What they encountered instead was discomfort. The camera bent faces and spaces in ways that felt unnatural. Scenes lingered longer than expected. Silence filled the gaps. The overall mood pressed down slowly, creating a sense of unease that never fully lifted. For audiences used to clear heroes and simple resolutions, the experience felt heavy. Reactions were mixed, and confusion turned into rejection. The box office response reflected that discomfort, and the film was quickly labeled a failure. But time changed the conversation. Later, viewers approached it with patience rather than expectation. What once felt disturbing now felt thoughtful. The story's focus on identity, reinvention, and quiet regret began to resonate more deeply. As years passed, the film gained recognition as one of the most haunting works of its era. It was never designed to entertain easily. It was designed to warn quietly. Number 3, The Mask of the Red Death, 1964. This film arrived with all the signs of importance. The production looked rich. The visuals were carefully designed. Every frame suggested ambition and confidence. Yet, when it reached theaters, audiences stayed away. Despite its scale and a powerful central performance, the response was quiet and underwhelming. At the time, many viewers didn't know how to engage with it. The imagery felt unusual. Colors were intense and unnatural. The storytelling leaned heavily on symbolism rather than explanation. For audiences expecting something grounded and familiar, the experience felt distant and hard to connect with. But time reshaped that reaction completely. As tastes evolved, the film's bold choices began to shine. The exaggerated colors no longer felt strange, they felt purposeful. The stylized sets began to resemble moving artwork. The tone, once criticized as excessive, revealed a carefully controlled atmosphere. What was once dismissed as overdone slowly became iconic. Viewers started praising the mood, the visual confidence, and the way the film trusted its audience to observe rather than be guided. The movie didn't change. The audience did. It didn't fail because it lacked beauty or care. It failed because it asked viewers to lean in, to look closely, and to engage without comfort, and eventually, that demand became its greatest strength. Number 2, Head, 1968. Audiences arrived expecting something comfortable, something familiar, a recognizable rhythm they could settle into without effort. What they encountered instead felt unpredictable from the very first scene. Moments didn't flow the way they expected. Images collided. Jokes appeared and vanished without warning. By the time the film ended, many viewers were simply confused. The movie refused to guide its audience. It rejected clear structure and ignored traditional logic. Rather than celebrating fame, it poked at it. Rather than reassuring fans, it challenged them. For many, that felt like betrayal. Word spread quickly, and curiosity turned into frustration. Ticket sales dropped. The experiment seemed over, but creative rebellion rarely disappears. It goes quiet. Years later, a different kind of audience found the film. Viewers who weren't looking for comfort. Viewers who appreciated risk. What once felt chaotic now felt intentional. The rapid shifts, the strange humor, the refusal to explain itself all began to make sense. The film wasn't failing to communicate. It was speaking in a different language. Over time, Head became a symbol of creative freedom, a film admired precisely because it would not behave. The disorder was the message. The confusion was the point. It wasn't broken. It was deliberately untamed. Number 1, Carnival of Souls, 1962. This film barely registered when it first arrived. There was almost no push behind it, no excitement, no real sense that anyone expected it to matter. It slipped into theaters quietly, struggled to attract attention, and disappeared just as fast. Most people never even knew it existed. Then something unexpected happened. Late-night television gave it a second life. Viewers stumbled across it by accident, flipping channels, not knowing what they were about to see. And once they saw it, the feeling stayed with them. The story followed a woman moving through the world as if slightly out of sync. She spoke, walked, and worked like everyone else, yet something felt off. The spaces around her felt empty. Conversations felt hollow. Long stretches of silence created an uneasy calm that refused to explain itself. At first, the film's simplicity was mistaken for weakness. The sparse locations and quiet pacing were seen as flaws. But over time, those same choices began to feel deliberate. The emptiness wasn't missing detail. It was the point. Viewers started recommending it to each other. Late-night screenings turned into discussions. Discussions turned into devotion. The film didn't need applause on opening weekend. It needed patience. And with time, it found exactly the audience it was waiting for. So maybe failure isn't the end of the story. Maybe it's just the wrong audience, the wrong moment, the wrong decade. These movies didn't disappear. They waited. And when the world finally caught up, they found loyalty instead of ticket sales. Now it's your turn. Which one surprised you the most? Which one deserves a second look? Drop your thoughts, share this with a fellow film fan, and keep the conversation alive. Because sometimes the movies that lose first last forever.